Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Amma ba'd, faqad qala Allah ta'ala fi al-Qur'an al-Majid, ba'da a'udhu billahi min shaitan al-rajim. La uqsimu bihadha al-balad wa anta hillum bihadha al-balad. Wa qala ta'ala, wat-tini waz-zaytun wa turi sinin wa hadha al-balad al-amin. Inshallah, the topic that we'll be discussing today is regarding some of the fadail, virtues and blessings of Mecca Al-Mukarramah. This is inshallah going to be part 1 of today's lecture. The next week inshallah we will have part 2 of this lecture, where I will be mentioning some of the fadail, virtues and blessings of Medina. So inshallah, in today's lecture I will be going over 20 unique and specific blessings of Mecca that are only specific to this blessed city and are not found in any other city. So inshallah, I'll just go over all of them. Actually, this is not a very comprehensive list. There's actually even more, but these are just ones that I have decided to choose. So some of the unique things, and all of these are obviously from Quran and the authentic hadith. So the first unique thing about Mecca is that it is the only city that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes an oath by, in 2 separate places, in 2 different surahs. First one is in Surah Al-Balad, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La uqsimu bihadha al-balad. I swear by this city, i.e. Makkah Al-Mukarramah. And the other one is in Surah Al-Tin, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ وَطُورِ سِينِينَ وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ. And I swear by the city that is safe and secure, referring to Makkah. So this is the first unique thing about Makkah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes an oath by it in 2 separate places. No other city in the world has this blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swearing by it 2 times in the Quran. The second unique thing about Makkah is that it is called Ummul Qura, which means the mother of all cities and towns. Just like we talked about Surah Al-Fatiha, it is called Ummul Kitab. It is called the mother of the Quran, because it is the essence of the Quran, a summary of the entire Quran. The rest of the Quran is actually the explanation of Surah Al-Fatiha. So just like Surah Al-Fatiha, it is called Ummul Quran, likewise Makkah is called Ummul Qura. And this is a title given to it by none other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. Again, in 2 separate places, in 2 different surahs. One is in Surah Al-An'am, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَهَذَا كِتَابٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ مُبَارَكٌ مُصَدِّقُ الَّذِي بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ وَلِتُنذِرَ أُمَّ الْقُرَى وَمَنْ حَوْلَهَا. And the other one is in Surah Al-Shura, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَذَلِكَ أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا. We have revealed this Quran as an Arabic Quran, لِتُنذِرَ أُمَّ الْقُرَى وَمَنْ حَوْلَهَا, so that you may warn al-Qura, i.e. Makkah, وَمَنْ حَوْلَهَا, and those surrounding it. Also, in some narrations it is mentioned, the reason it is called al-Qura is because it is said the beginning of the world's creation actually began with Makkah and then with the rest of the world. So anyway, it is called al-Qura because it is the grandest and the holiest of all cities. Again, another very unique and interesting thing about Makkah. The third unique thing about Makkah is that it is a haram. It is a sacred place, a sanctuary. Okay, when you enter it, you have extra protection and you have extra safety. And this is the only city that has this type of haram. Even the haram of Medina is not exactly the same as the haram of Mecca. And when you talk about the blessings of Medina, I will talk about that as well. But it is called a haram. Why? It is derived from the word haram, which means forbidden. So things that is normally allowed for you certainly becomes haram because you're entering a sacred place and you have extra protection and safety there. Man dakhalahu kana amina. Just like when you are fasting, you are in a spiritual state. Things that's normally allowed certainly becomes prohibited. So you're not allowed to eat, drink, etc. Or like when you're wearing ihram, you are in a spiritual state. Certain things become forbidden upon you. You cannot apply perfume, trim your nails, cut your hair. Likewise, when you enter this sacred place, you cannot hunt animals, you cannot cut down trees, you cannot cut down shrubs, you cannot even carry weapons. All of this is prohibited. And for this reason, it is called a haram. And this is the only city that has this type of haram. And it was Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam who announced the sacredness of this place. So another unique thing about Makkah is that it is a haram. The fourth unique thing about Makkah is that this is the city that is blessed with the first house of worship. And this is mentioned explicitly in the Quran in the 4th juz in Surah Al-Imran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ أَوَّلَ بَيْتٍ وُضِعَ لِلنَّاسِ لَلَّذِي بِبَكَّةٍ. Verily the first house of worship ever built or assigned for mankind is the house in Bakka. And Bakka was the former name of Mecca. Mubarakan, full of blessings. وَهُدًى لِلْعَالَمِينَ, and a means of guidance for mankind. So it has the first house of worship ever built for human beings. Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu narrates in one hadith, he says, I asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which was the first masjid ever built? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Masjid al-Haram. And then he says, I asked, and which one after that? And he said, Masjid al-Aqsa. And I said, what was the duration between the two? And he said, 40 years. So again, another unique blessing for Mecca, that it has the first house of worship ever built for mankind. The fifth unique thing about Mecca is that it is the birthplace of the Prophet ﷺ, and of Abu Bakr, and of Umar, and of many of the great companions of Rasul ﷺ. Rasul ﷺ was not only born there, he was raised there, and he lived more than half of his life in Mecca Al-Mukarramah. 53 years of his life he spent in Mecca. No other city can boast of this, only Mecca Al-Mukarramah. So another unique blessing of this city. The sixth unique thing of Mecca is that it is this city in which the wahi began. It is this city in which revelation was sent upon the Prophet ﷺ. It was here where Iqra was recited before the Prophet ﷺ, where he had his first encounter with Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam. From this we can realize not only is it a spiritual place, but also a very historical place. In that when you go to Mecca, you're going to the city of the Prophet ﷺ, meaning the city not Medina, but the city in which he was born. It is the place where wahi came upon the Prophet ﷺ. When you go, for example, to Mecca, even though the buildings may have changed and the houses may have changed, what is man-made has changed and will continue to change, but the environment and the location is still the same. In fact, some of the things are exactly the same. When you go, for example, and kiss the Hajar al-Aswad, it is the same stone that the Prophet ﷺ himself kissed. When you go between Safa and Marwa, even though no doubt the two hills may have eroded a little bit, but it's still the exact same location. And when you climb the hill of Safa, you are standing on the same place where the Prophet ﷺ stood to make dua. When you go to drink the water of Zamzam, you are drinking water from the same exact well that Rasulullah ﷺ drank from, and from which many of the Sahaba, hundreds and thousands of Sahaba, and then later on ulama and scholars drank water from. So it is a very historical place. Even when you go now, and you are not exactly in the haram or in the masjid, but say you are in your hotel. Think about this point. Even if you are, in a 16th or 17th story of the building, who knows, all the way on the bottom, on the ground floor, that may have been the exact same spot where Rasulullah ﷺ stood, or where Abu Bakr or Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhuma may have walked on. So the place is very, very historical. So this is another unique thing about Mecca, that it is where wahi began upon the Prophet ﷺ, and this is where Quran was revealed. The seventh unique thing about Mecca is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls it mathabatan linnas. It is the place of return for people. When you go there once, you want to go again. And when you go there again, you want to visit it again. And the more you see it, the more you develop love for it. And this is very specific with Mecca, that it attracts the hearts of the believers, of the Muslims. And subhanAllah, we see that over the centuries, the number of pilgrims, they have increased. They have not decreased. And it seems like almost after every few decades, they have to actually expand the masjid in order to accommodate more and more hujjaj and mu'tamirin. So another very unique thing about Mecca. The eighth unique thing, 8th and 9th, is that there's certain things in Mecca that are not found in any other place. For example, number 8, the Hajar al-Aswad, which is a very special stone that was brought down from Jannah, from paradise. And we know it is inserted in one of the corners of the Kaaba. And it is actually part of the rites of Hajj and Umrah, that if you can, if possible, try to touch it or kiss it. And even though it is called Hajar al-Aswad, the black stone, but when it was brought down, Rasulullah ﷺ said, it was أَشَدُّ بَيَاضًا مِنْ لَبَنٍ. It was whiter than milk. But because it has been absorbing and taking in the sins of the children of Adam, therefore it has become dark. The ninth unique thing about Mecca is that it has Ma'u Zamzam. It has the water of Zamzam. And what can we say about the water of Zamzam? It has so many worldly and spiritual benefits. And there's so much of it mentioned in the hadith, and even scientifically they have proven so many interesting things about the water of Zamzam. In the hadith, Rasulullah said, and this is regarding its spiritual benefits, Ma'u Zamzam lima shuriba lah. The water of Zamzam is for whatever it is drunk for. So before you drink the water of Zamzam, you make dua. Okay, whatever dua pertaining to akhir, or even of this dunya, if it is permissible, inshallah, that dua will be accepted, and you drink the water of Zamzam. So this is the spiritual benefit. Also in another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, the water of Zamzam is طَعَامُ طُعْمٍ وَشِفَاءُ سُقْمٍ. It is the food of the hungry and the cure of the sick. So it has all of these benefits. What is also interesting to note, and this is amazing, is it's such an obvious miracle that you can even mention this to your non-Muslim friends. How? Look at it. The well is relatively small, but it has been quenching the thirst of hundreds and thousands, millions upon millions of people. Think about it. Forget about the season of Hajj. Just on a regular day, if you were to go there just on a regular day, it is said that the Masjid al-Haram can accommodate up to, Wallahu a'lam, 8 to 900,000 people. And if you include the courtyard, even more. If you include the surrounding area, like in the season of Hajj, up to 2, 3, 4 million people can come there. But besides that, just on a regular day, even if it's just few 100,000 people, and we know, mashallah, almost every person drinks at least one glass of water of Zamzam. In fact, most of the people you can ask, they probably even drink more than that. Because you don't actually have to go to the well itself to drink the water. MashaAllah, they have the water coolers everywhere, and it's so easy. They have made the facility everywhere. You can drink water of Zamzam anywhere in the masjid. So just on a regular day, hundreds of thousands of gallons of water is being drunk, just in that masjid. Then we see in the Prophet ﷺ's masjid, they've also made arrangements, and there's water there as well, the water of Zamzam. And again, that masjid could also accommodate few 100,000 people, and if you include the courtyard, even more. So again, few 100,000 gallons of water is being drunk over there on a daily basis. And then in the surrounding area, in the surrounding masajid and in the stores, it is being sold. And the water is sold not just only in the kingdom, but throughout the world. And then we see the people that come back, they also bring with them the water of Zamzam. During the season of Hajj, you have 2, 3, maybe even more pilgrims bringing at least one big gallon of the water of Zamzam. They bring it back, and it has not dried. And this has been going on not just for a week or a month or a year or a decade, more than 1400 years, because it was there in existence not since the time of the Prophet ﷺ, since the time of Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam. And think about this. What is amazing is that in the surrounding area, it has been noticed that the wells, they don't have that much water like the water of Zamzam, right? In fact, it's very little to no water. And it is said when you dig in the surrounding area, you won't find water. You may find oil, but you may not find water. And this is something unique with this, that in surrounding area, you don't find as much water or very little water. But subhanAllah, this has been running since the time of Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam, and inshallah will continue to Yawm al-Qiyamah. The 10th unique thing about Mecca is that it has a special act of worship that could only be done in Mecca and not anywhere else, not even in Medina. And that act of worship is the tawaf. The tawaf is something that is done, and by the way, it's not just restricted to Hajj and Umrah. Even after you finish Hajj and Umrah, you can actually perform the tawaf. And this you can only do there. You cannot do this in Medina or anywhere else. Okay? And it is the most uninterrupted act of worship. Okay? There is no worship that is done continuously like tawaf. That it is done continuously non-stop. Even when the mu'adhin gives the adhan, they continue performing tawaf. It is only when the imam says Allahu Akbar, the people stop for salah. As soon as it's Assalamu alaikum, again people start with the tawaf. It is the most uninterrupted act of worship. And basically it's just a simple act of worship. You go around the Kaaba 7 times, right? 7 times counterclockwise. Okay, so that is like the central point, and you go around it 7 times. And it's interesting to note, I talked about this before, about the number 7, and it's an interesting number. Also, another thing to realize here, if you study the creation of Allah, you see that a lot of things, they go counterclockwise around a central point. For example, when you study things at a molecular level, it is said protons, when they go around the nucleus, they go around the central point counterclockwise. When you study the cells, it is said the cytoplasm, when it kind of moves around, it moves around the cell counterclockwise. The earth, when it rotates around its axis, it moves counterclockwise. The earth, when it goes around the sun, around the central point of the solar system, it goes counterclockwise. The sun, along with all of its planets, the whole solar system, when it is going around a central point in the galaxy, it is going counterclockwise. Then the galaxy, when it is going around another point in the universe, it is going counterclockwise. And also the Mu'tamirin and the Hujjaj, they have also been commanded that when they go around the Kaaba, which is the central point in this world, you go counterclockwise. What is the hikmah? Wallahu subhanahu wa ta'ala a'lam, but just something interesting to note. Number 11, that Mecca is a city that it is blessed in that it was from this city that the night journey of Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj began. Okay, the night journey of the Prophet ﷺ, it actually began from Mecca, from Masjid al-Haram. And this is worth mentioning. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions it in the Quran. In Surah Al-Isra, in the very first ayah, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى. All praise and glory be to the one who took his servant by night from where? Masjid al-Haram, from the sacred mosque إلى المسجد الأقصى, to the furthest mosque, الذي باركنا حوله, whose precincts we had blessed, لنريه من آياتنا, so that we may show him our signs. So another unique blessing for Mecca. Number 12, that it is the most blessed city in the world and the most beloved city in the eyes of Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we know this from the fact that when the Prophet ﷺ was migrating and he looked at Mecca for the last time and he addressed the city, and what did he say? He said, by Allah, you are the most beloved city and the most beloved lands of Allah to Allah. And had it not been for your people who have expelled me, I would have never left thee. And he called it khayri ardillah, the best piece of land on this earth. And this is the position of many, many ulama. Okay, majority of the ulama, they say it is the most blessed land, even more than Medina. According to the vast majority of scholars like Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. Even though Imam Malik was of the position that Medina seems to be more blessed. And inshallah, when I talk about Medina, I'll talk about the blessings of Medina, and I'll show to you that even Imam Malik rahimahullah also has a very, very strong case as to why Medina is more blessed than Mecca. But for now, inshallah, we'll stick to the blessings of Mecca. So according to the vast majority of scholars, because of this hadith and this saying of the Prophet ﷺ, that Mecca is the most sacred land on the face of this earth. Number 13, the other unique thing about Mecca is that it has the Kaaba, the Qibla, the direction of prayer for all of the Muslims on the face of this earth. No matter where you are on this globe, if the time of prayer comes and you know the Qibla, the direction of prayer, you must turn towards Mecca. Okay, it's another issue if you make a mistake or something, inshallah you're forgiven. But if you know the direction of prayer, you must face towards Masjid al-Haram. And Allah mentions this clearly in the Quran, in the second juz of the Quran, in the second chapter, Surah Al-Baqarah, فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ, and turn your face in the direction of Masjid al-Haram, وَحَيْثُمَا كُنْتُمْ فَوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ شَطْرًا. Number 14, the 14th unique blessing of Mecca is that it has the Masjid al-Haram, which is one of the 3 masjids for which you can undertake a journey in order to get more blessings. In other words, you are not allowed to undertake a journey to another masjid thinking they will give you more reward. Okay? Let me explain this. All of the masajid are the same. And the masajid lillah, all of the masajid are the same. Don't think that if you pray in this masjid, you get more blessings as opposed to the other masjid. Yes, it's a different issue if you go to this one masjid and you study the Quran there and you attend a class there and you attend and listen to a lecture there. For that, you get extra blessings. But just simply for praying, all of the masajids are the same. You cannot go to one masjid with the intention it will give you more reward as opposed to another masjid. Again, if there's a side blessing, that's a different issue. Maybe if you're listening to a lecture in one masjid and they don't have this in another, for that you get extra blessing. But just for the prayer itself, all of the masajid are the same, and you cannot undertake a journey for this purpose, except 3 masajids. There's 3 places that you can undertake a journey for this specific reason, to get more reward of the prayer. And this is, and the hadith is, لا تشد الرحال إلا إلى 3 مساجد. You cannot undertake a journey except to 3 masjids, Masjid al-Haram or Masjid al-Aqsa, and then the Prophet said, وَمَسْجِدِ هَذَا. And one of them is Masjid al-Haram. So this is number 14. Number 15 is that one is to honor the Kaaba and the Qibla, even if you're outside of Mecca. You're supposed to show the utmost respect. In one narration, it even mentions that it is discouraged, it is disliked for one to even spit in the direction of the Qibla. In another hadith, the Prophet specifically have told us, when we, for example, use the restroom, when one is relieving himself, he's not supposed to have his face or have his back towards the Qibla. And the hadith is, لا تستقبلوا القبلة ولا تستدبروها ولكن شرقوا أو غربوا. Again, another very unique blessing of Mecca. No other city has this. No matter where you are, it is recommended that you don't face or have your back towards it when you are in the bathroom. Number 16. The 16th unique blessing of Mecca is that this is the city that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose for the rites of Hajj, which is one of the greatest acts of worship in Islam. What is Hajj? The pillar of Islam, the pillar of this deed. It is an act of worship that the Prophet said, one who performs it properly. Okay, من حج الله فلم يرفث ولم يفسق رجع كيوم ولدته أمه. He returned home sinless like the day his mother gave birth to him. So all of his minor sins, all of them are washed away. And this act of worship can only be done in Mecca and in the surrounding areas of Mecca. You cannot do this anywhere else. You cannot even do this in Medina, only in Mecca. Number 17, the 17th unique blessing of Mecca is that it has the largest gathering of humanity that comes on an annual basis. In the season of Hajj, you have the largest gathering that comes on an annual basis, on a regular basis. Yes, there are some irregular gatherings that kind of break the Hajj, but they are done on an irregular basis. For example, in Hinduism, there is a festival which brings, they say, about 10 million people, which yes, it breaks the Hajj, but it is done irregularly every 10 years. But on a regular basis, the largest gathering of humanity that come together is in Mecca. Number 18, not only does it have the largest gathering, but it also has the most internationally diverse gathering as well. So when it comes to other religions, other faiths, for example, like in Hinduism, you have this festival, but you only have people from one ethnicity, one background. Well, when it comes to Hajj and the season of Hajj, or even in Umrah, you have literally people from every corner of the globe. Just like how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised Ibrahim, يَأْتُوكَ رِجَالًا وَعَلَى كُلِّ ضَامٍ يَأْتِينَ مِنْ كُلِّ فَجٍّ عَمِيقٍ. That they will come literally from every corner of the world, from every deep ravine. And we see this. You have people coming from places that you never expected Muslims to be even living there. All of the countries of the world, more than 150 countries of the world, that are actually being represented in Mecca in the season of Hajj. So another very, very unique thing about Mecca, that it shows the concept of brotherhood and equality. That you have literally people from all over the world, whites and the blacks and everything in between, and all of them, when it comes to Hajj, all of them are wearing the exact same garment. Even this type of equality we don't see in Salah. Yes, we see everyone is standing equally before Allah, but still you can tell the rich from the poor because of the way they're dressed and so on and so forth. But when it comes to Hajj, everyone is dressed the same. Okay? So, and this is something unique only with Mecca. Number 19, and this should just top it off. Okay? 19 and then 20. 19 is anything you do in Mecca. Okay? Anything you do in Mecca, and I would like everyone to pay careful attention to this. Anything you do in Mecca, it is multiplied by 100,000 times. If you pray your salah one salah, it is multiplied by 100,000 times. And the hadith, many narrations, all of them are authentic about this. 100,000 times. And the ulama have actually said that it is not only restricted to salah, they have said inshallah it is for the other acts of worship as well. So even if you read one Quran, it is like reading 100,000 Qurans. You give $1 in charity, is like giving $100,000 in charity elsewhere. You spend the whole night in ibadah, inshallah you get the reward of spending 100,000 nights in ibadah, in the worship of Allah. Why do I mention this? Because whenever we go there, we should utilize every single moment that we have. You know how in Ramadan, in the last 10 days, we spend so much time in search of Laylatul Qadr. Well, let me tell you this, that who knows, perhaps when you perform ibadah and worship, that you're perhaps getting more reward than Laylatul Qadr. Now this is not mentioned in the hadith, but I'll mention the reason why. What is the reward for Laylatul Qadr? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Laylatul Qadr khayrun min alfi shahr. The night of power, it is better than 1,000 months. Now how much is 1,000 months in terms of days? If each month has 29 or 30 days, and it's 1,000 months, 1,000 months multiplied by 29 or 30, you get 29 or 30,000 days or nights. So if you were to do ibadah on Laylatul Qadr, first of all, you cannot even be sure, because it could happen any night. But suppose you did find Laylatul Qadr, inshallah, you got the reward of doing ibadah for 29 or 30,000 nights. So this is the reward of Laylatul Qadr. Laylatul Qadr khayrun min alfi shahr. But if you were to do ibadah, okay, in one night in Mecca, everything is multiplied by 100,000 times. So over here, you're getting more than 3 times than what you get in Laylatul Qadr. And also realize, the other difference is Laylatul Qadr, you don't know exactly when it occurs. You don't know the exact time. Yes, we have a general idea, but we don't know. So you're trying so hard to, and we should, not to discourage you from doing that, but tell you that here, you're getting it anywhere. It's not restricted to nighttime or daytime. Anytime you go there, and anything you do, it is multiplied by 100,000 times. But also to keep in mind that anything you do, is also, any sin you commit, it is also multiplied as well. And they said one of the severe or the serious thing about this place is that even if you intend to do evil, it is counted as a sin, according to some of the scholars, because of the ayah, وَمَنْ يُرِدْ فِيهِ بِإِلْحَادٍ بِظُلْمٍ نُذِقْهُ مِنْ عَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. Whoever intends to do anything, okay, in the haram, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we will cause him to taste a painful punishment. Generally speaking, you are not held accountable for intentions, right? Unless it is followed by action. But here, even if you intend to do evil, for that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take you to task. So it is also, it goes the other way around as well. And then finally, the 20th unique thing is that this, along with Medina, are the only 2 cities that will be protected from the fitna, the trials and tribulations of Ad-Dajjal, Al-Masih Ad-Dajjal. And who is Al-Masih Ad-Dajjal? The Prophet ﷺ said, it is, the fitna that is the most difficult and it will be the most difficult hardship and fitna for this ummah to bear. There isn't any fitna from the time of Adam ﷺ to Yawm al-Qiyamah that is more difficult for the ummah to bear than the fitna of Ad-Dajjal. Every prophet warned his ummah about Ad-Dajjal, and so did the Prophet ﷺ, and he mentioned many ahadith regarding this. And in one hadith, it is also mentioned that if you hear of Ad-Dajjal, to go to these sacred cities because it will protect you against him. And the hadith are again quite a few authentic hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that لَيْسَ مِن بَلَدٍ إِلَّا سَيَطَعُهُ الدَّجَّالِ إِلَّا مَكَّةَ وَالْمَدِينَةِ. That there isn't a city on this world except that Dajjal will enter it, except for 2 cities, Mecca and Medina. So there's more than 2 million cities, villages in the world now. Dajjal will go to each and every single one of them. The only 2 that will be spared are Mecca and Medina. These are the only 2 that will be protected. These are just 20 unique blessings I mentioned about Mecca. There's actually more as well, but I just restricted myself to only this much. And then inshallah, in the next part, next week's lecture, I'll talk about 20 fadail, virtues and unique blessings of Medina. And when you hear that, right now you think that Mecca is the most sacred city. But when you hear about Medina, you come to think that it is not far behind either. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.